Hi, everyone. Kathy Rose here, and I'm going to talk to you about the astrological patterns for November 2025. We start with the Scorpio mandala, a sign filled with emotional power and passion, and we're going to be talking about this. So let's first look at the themes for November. We're still in a phase change that really began in September with Saturn retrograding back to Pisces, which continued in October with Neptune retrograding back into Pisces, and now in November, Uranus retrograding back into Taurus. So the phase change will be palpable, and I'll talk about that in a moment when I get to that slide. We have a Mercury retrograde in November also, and that is going to be really intensely working with Uranus retrograding back into Taurus. And this is a very important time for integration and release. So I look forward to this Mercury retrograde. I think it's going to be exceptionally productive. And then on top of it, one of the themes for November is learning to manage passion and power as we have very strong Scorpio activation. So let's begin with the full moon in Taurus taking place on November 5th, 8:19 a.m. Eastern Time. So anytime we have the moon in Taurus for a lunation, it's very strong because the moon operates very well in Taurus. It offers us exceptional practicality, stability, inner security, grounding, planning, perseverance, endurance. So all of those things will be highlighted. Um, it's always important when we have fixed sign activity. Fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. It's always important that we learn to release control. We learn to flow instead of force. So, on the shadow side, be aware of that. But what's most important about this full moon in Taurus is that we have this super dynamic activity between Mars and Mercury in Sagittarius opposite Uranus in Gemini. Um, and that's a lot of electricity flowing through our thinking and our communication. That's a lot of adventure. That's a enormous wave of energy that wants to move things forward. But what's more important is that this chart set for Washington, D.C. places Mercury and Mars and Uranus on angles. The ascendant, which is on the left side of the screen, and the descendant, which is on the right. And the nodal axis, the north and south node, will be on the midheaven and IC. So, what that immediately tells me is very significant action happening with something related to the US. So, here's where I'm going to advance the slide and we're going to revisit the full moon in Aries that took place last month in October on the 6th. And I had mentioned in the video for October that when we find planets on angles during these lunations, it speaks to the fact that there will be activity and movement related to the country where we find this. So what did we have? Right before the full moon in Aries, we had the government shutdown for the US on October 1st. And then right after the full moon in Aries on October 8th, we had the peace deal that was arranged or that came about between Hamas and Israel. Please send energy that holds. We want peace in that zone. And so all of this was right around that full moon in Aries in October and a whole lot of activity. Interestingly enough, mid-October, I calculated the chart that was on the previous slide, the full moon in Taurus, November 5th. Is that what it was? And I mentioned to my husband that wouldn't it be interesting or sad, actually, if it takes until that full moon in Taurus to end the government shutdown? And I said that because of the planets on angles. And I'm shooting this right now, October 27th, and the shutdown is still taking place, and it's not looking like any movement is happening. So we might be seeing in that full moon in Taurus that I just talked about, we might be seeing that as one of the big movements happening with the US. Just be ready because this is a very, very active period. So let's go forward now and talk about Uranus in Taurus. The Uranus, this big planet filled with electricity, filled with awakening, filled with change, is going to move back into Taurus to finish what it started in 2018. And so this is going to take place November 7th, and it will stay there until April 27th of 2026. So this is the big phase change. And what it's trying to do is to help us understand what we've been needing to learn. Remember, Taurus is an earth sign in the fixed modality. Taurus is the sign in the zodiac that least embraces change. Change comes about in the Taurus world and it goes, nope. You have to gradually introduce change with Taurus energy. And Uranus is all about change. Uranus is fresh air that comes into a stale room and creates circulation and wants to release stagnation. So this whole time, Uranus and Taurus from 2018 all the way until we get to April of 2026 is, I think, trying to teach us inner security, not security based on having a plan, not security based on feeling like you have a sense of control, not attachment to an outcome, but inner security that is based on knowing you are capable, knowing in any given moment you will get the information you need because you are supported, you are connected, you are capable, and the kind of freedom that comes with that, that says, I can release my need to have an exact and detailed plan, and I can feel secure in every single moment just because I'm breathing and I'm capable. And I think this is one of the things Uranus and Taurus has been trying to teach us, being in the present moment, being in the now, as opposed to jumping ahead into catastrophic futures, with anxiety or being attached to plans. So we're going to be feeling this profoundly to finish it up, to integrate it within us. Inner security from November to April. On screen is a mandala that I made. I think I created this one just after Uranus entered Taurus. So maybe I created this in 2019. I'm not sure. But when I created it, I said to myself, this represents the energy of Uranus and Taurus being grounded, stable, but in the moment, filled with electricity. I loved that mandala quite a bit and I enjoyed making it. So, on top of the fact that Uranus moves back into Taurus and is teaching us how to release control, then we have to now talk about how Scorpio desires control. Scorpio really yearns for feeling a sense of security by having a plan, you know. But we're going to have a lot of opportunity in November to manage our passion and power. First, it started with Mars in Scorpio, which was in September, and Mars entered or completed the transit in Scorpio on November 4th. Mars in Scorpio is truly the most indomitable Mars you can have. Action was profound and passionate and intense. But that's followed now by the fact that Venus will enter Scorpio on November 6th and stay there until the end of the month. And Venus in Scorpio, Venus is how we relate to each other, how we connect. And Venus in Scorpio is the social energy. So, there will be a level of intensity and passion with our connections with people. Use it well. Use it to feel deeply about your friends and family, and beware of the shadow side of Scorpio, which can be jealous or operate in revenge or hold grudges, or that kind of intensity. Use the higher level of Venus in Scorpio, which is to care deeply and to feel on, emotional, profound levels for other people. But we're also going to have Mercury reactivating the Scorpio energy. So Mercury transited Scorpio starting October 7th and then ended the transit in Scorpio on October 29th. But because we're going to have Mercury retrograde, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, Mercury will re-enter Scorpio and reactivate all of this Scorpio energy from November 18th through the middle part of December. So the management of power and passion with Scorpio. And on screen, the image is called the Rising Phoenix, the Golden Phoenix, created by my good friend Agnes Belesne. I have one on my office wall right over here, and it's spectacular. It has such profound energy and it fills my office. Agnes is a feng shui master and astrologer, and she created this particular piece, and she has it available. She sells these that are fabulous for transformation, for activation of your power, activation of success. And I really feel it when I look at the one I have on my wall. You can find her feng shui art on her website, agnesbelesneart.com. It's quite beautiful. So the rising phoenix, the golden phoenix, is a great symbol for Scorpio because it rises above the lower passions and it activates the higher, profound levels of power. Power that's not hooked into ego, but power that we can all focus on in November if we relax and become a conduit through which universal power operates. And we just let it slide through us without ego, without needing applause. Just become a conduit, become open. And you can feel that when you look at this beautiful golden phoenix on screen. So then let's talk about the Mercury retrograde coming up in November. It begins on the 9th of the month. And at that time, Mercury will be in Sagittarius at 6 degrees. But as it goes retrograde, it will back up into Scorpio again. And by the time it ends the retrograde, which is on November 29th, at that point, it will be at 20 degrees Scorpio. So it starts at 6 Sagittarius, backs up to 20 degrees Scorpio. During that time, this is why I said the Mercury retrograde is going to be working with this transit of Uranus in Taurus. Because when Uranus backs up into Taurus, it's going to activate the last 3 degrees of the sign. So from November to April, Uranus will be hitting 27, 28, 29 degree Taurus. Mercury retrograde in November will be activating those degrees too. And what this allows us to do, this is a wonderful and powerful opportunity in November to align your thinking with what Uranus and Taurus is trying to teach us because Scorpio is opposite Taurus. So they're going to be working together. So this is without a doubt saying find your inner security, align your thinking with the fact that you are safe, you are connected, you are supported. Align your thinking with the fact that you can connect with the universe and get answers. And let this Mercury retrograde help you with that. Particularly if in your natal chart you have planets or angles between 20 Scorpio and 6 Sagittarius. If you're going to receive contact in your natal chart, then it's even stronger and louder. Okay. But you see the graphic on screen. Mercury may be retrograde, but I'm not. If you listen to my videos or read my newsletters, I'm not afraid of Mercury retrograde, nor do I buy into the programming that terrible things have to happen. I think Mercury retrograde is an opportunity to have insight and have answers and get clarity. And this one, working with Uranus and Taurus, is very, very special. Okay, so let's move in to the next lunation in November, which is the new moon in Scorpio happening on November 20th. And this new moon will be Sun Moon conjunct at 28 Scorpio, opposite the planet Uranus at 29 Taurus. Now, my birthday is the next day, so I'm going to be receiving this very strong energy for my solar return on my birthday, and I'm not afraid. I'm looking forward to it. This to me says there's a phenomenal opportunity, at least that's how I'm programming it, to rewire my thinking because you see, Mercury retrograde is going to be exactly conjunct the sun and the moon in this chart. So this is a really special new moon in Scorpio. Make it, just appreciate this because those last few degrees of Scorpio are the most intense degrees ever. This is where, again, if we focus on the phoenix, the image of the golden phoenix I had earlier, the phoenix burns itself in the pyre and then is reborn out of the ashes. There is an intensity about release and let go of what's not working, end something, begin something new, be reborn from the ashes. So with Uranus opposite Sun, Moon, Mercury, wow, I just feel let go of thoughts that don't serve you anymore. Of course, I would say that anytime, no matter what. But this is punctuation. This is like having three exclamation points at the end of a sentence saying, rewire your thinking, align yourself with and send energy into what you want to create. Take responsibility for what you are saying, what you are thinking, what you are activating with your words and with your emotions. Look at fear. Let go of fear as best you can. Understand the habits you have around this. This is going to help you to purge and to release and to have clarity and to be the phoenix that rises out of the ashes. Beautiful, beautiful energy. I do want to say one more thing. Again, we have a pattern of planets on angles on the seventh house cusp called the descendant on the right side of the screen. We see Saturn's going to be conjunct that descendant with Neptune there. Again, for the US, this is saying something important may be happening. And I don't make exact predictions about what will be happening in advance. Too easy to get negative, too easy to go into fear. What I like to look at is just the fact that there's going to be activity. And then I try to center my thoughts around energizing the best possible outcome. But so both lunations in November have planets on angles for the US. There's going to be a whole lot of activity. Plus, Uranus moving back into Taurus. This is a very, very, very strong period. And by the way, November 20th is Joe Biden, former president, birthday. And so this is a very strong statement for him. And I have mentioned in the past that I think sometime between the November timeframe and April, he's going to be coming back into the news in a powerful way, hopefully in a positive, powerful way. I'm not giving hints about anything negative here, but the very fact that this is hitting his chart says something to me. All right, so we've reached the end now, and my final thoughts for November is a meme that we created that says sometimes your only means of transportation is a leap of faith. So this is directly addressing Uranus moving back into Taurus because when Taurus operates at its highest level, it is again learning how to release control, learning how to relax into the now so that you are capable and connected with the universe and can tap into faith. Faith that you're connected, faith that everything always works out, faith that you will get the exact information you need in any given moment in order to solve problems or deal with whatever is happening in your life. And there's a lot happening in the world right now and a lot happening in the US. And I think with this Mercury retrograde, with these lunations that are so powerful, and Uranus moving back into Taurus, the leap of faith in our consciousness directing our passion and our power into that calmness, into the groundedness that says, I can be present in the now and feel safe. I think that's very important. November is a very strong month. So, as always, I send much love and many blessings to you. And I look forward to seeing you in December after Mercury goes direct. And we'll see what transpires. And join me, please, in energizing all positive movement forward. All right, bye for now. See you in December.